everybody. Welcome to the latest installment of MSP Business School. My name is Brian Doyle, and with me, as always, are my two co-hosts, Tim and Rob. And it's great when we have five people. You guys are really up here on the top row with me, at least in my screen. So
yeah, I know,
that's
right?
pretty cool. But
nice.
as always, I don't think anybody cares about the three of us, right? You know, they come here to hear about our guests, and I'm excited about the guests that we have on today. I've had the opportunity to work with both of them for a little while now. And I want to thank Luke Ross and Jon Kotman from Kotman Technology. And appreciate you guys coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Good. Very
so,
cool.
You know, we love to hear the story of how you got into the crazy world of MSP and what took you down this path to launching a company and getting started in our industry. So maybe, Jon, I'm going to assume since your name's on the sign, we should probably start that story with you.
Yeah, so I think like many IT owners, I kind of started off as a tech. Started the business while I was in high school. My mom would drop me off actually at the local law firm, kind of fix their computers, fix their Exchange server, different things like that. Business really kind of grew from there, and decided to move back to California. That's kind of where I'd grown up, but had moved to Michigan. Really enjoyed warmer weather, so headed back there. Went to Fresno State. During that time period, really just kind of started to work and grow up a clientele of, at that point, break fix customers. I think like many of us. So I was in the break fix world for many years. And then really over the past probably 5 to 7 years, kind of made that transition to be a full MSP.
Jon, did you go to school out in Michigan? What makes a guy leave California?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Zone?
It could not be more opposite.
6th grade, headed back there. My dad's job moved us back over there.
Gotcha.
And then moved back to California. We still have some of our Michigan clients, actually. It's about 7% of the companies actually still are Michigan customers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Wow. So you were fixing servers and Exchange servers, and I was flipping hamburgers in high school. A little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I think if the three of us said what our high school jobs are, we're going to go down into another world.
Brian, it was at a time they were okay with the 16-year-old coming in after the final school bell rang.
Right.
Could you imagine?
It's going to solve the world's communication problems in a legal environment, right?
Yeah, it's too funny.
So, Luke, what's your tale of getting into the world of IT?
Well, in many ways, it starts with Jon Kotman. So Jon's been a dear friend of mine for a long while. We met at Fresno State. So when he came back, his journey there, coming back from Michigan. So we meet there, a couple of young college kids. And so we really strike off a pretty neat friendship at that point. Through this time, become best buddies, best friends, end up in each other's weddings. And I head down I'm a math guy, so math degree. And so I went kind of the math route, and I taught and I was in education for 10 years prior to joining Jon over here at Kotman. So, I taught, the algebra group. I taught AP calculus there the last, I think, 5 years or so. And I also coached high school basketball and volleyball. And so very much in the education sector. And then this buddy of mine named Jon comes along and says, "Hey, I really think you'd love IT. More specific, I think you'd love working with me." I said, "Well, for sure I would." So he begins what he calls, Jon, you'll have to help me with the quote, but I think his quote was, "I want to crush the dreams of all future students by taking Luke out of education." All right.
Here's the real question, though. Did he crush the dreams of Luke when Luke realized what technology really means?
No, I'm still very terrible when it comes to technology. There's
no way around it.
Yeah, but no, it's been a joy and a privilege to work with Jon. And so in many ways that started, many friends and mentors of mine said I was lily padding. So for about 2 years, I was part-time. So we meet in the mornings before school, before the bell started. And then after school, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was down here in the afternoon. So Jon and I were hitting it on both sides. Sometimes it was a backyard, wine night as we talk through business and problems together and figure out what's going on. And so there's a lot of discussion for a couple of years before made that decision to exit teaching. Saw that I loved it and loved working with Jon. So to leave that and head into the space with him and kind of try to tackle this thing together became pretty exciting.
So Luke, what do you specifically do, for the company? I'm sure it has something to do with the finance side, but what are your roles there?
That's a funny question. So I said I send John an email that has 9 different categories in it on Sunday night that outlines some different areas that I would oversee or be responsible for in some ways. So I'd say there's quite a few. The funny thing is finance isn't one of them. So that's actually where John comes in. So that's kind of funny. So yeah, I think there's a number of different things, projects, client account management, sales.
Got it.
Service.
Yeah. Okay. So the teaching side, teaching your clients and stuff how to.
Sure. Yeah. I think a lot of it. Yeah. And even just probably teams and structure. So a lot of even what I did, some stuff in education, from the department side or with teams, or I was a part of a group called WASC for a while, which is Western Association of Schools and Colleges. We actually audited curriculum to say, if you graduated from school A and you graduated from school B, what makes those degrees the same? You got to, so why is that? And so I was a part of that. I had a chance to kind of co-chair a committee. And so I've just done different things with teams and organizations a bit. And so a chance to kind of lead and join what Jon was doing was exciting. And so, yeah, I think I take a whole host of different skills. Jon could probably speak better to it, and a lot of not so good skills when it comes to IT, and blend it together with Jon. And
do that, guys. From my experience working with you, in some different ways, one of the things that I know about your organization is, while you've got some traditional customers, you've got what would be termed some untraditional customers as well within your stable out there in Northern California. I know you've got some agriculture customers, and that I came to find out is a whole different beast than many other companies. Tell us a little bit about what it's like supporting really the farming community that's out there as well.
Yeah, so Central Valley, where we're located, really is kind of, where we grow half the world's grapes here. Companies like Sunmade are headquartered here. If it grows, it probably comes through here at some point. One of our clients, or actually a couple of them, take an almond. I'm used to just buying one chocolate on the outside, but they don't grow that way on the tree. So prior to that, there's actually a hull and a shell that are kind of on the outside of that almond. So we have a couple clients that actually take that off. So hull or shellers machines, and one, I think they processed about 500 million pounds of raw nuts last year. I mean, just an incredible amount of nuts that kind of go through there. We always joke and say it's nuts every time we talk about things, but
it's nuts.
Just the sheer volume of like what has to be processed, and a lot of the outsides become actually cattle feed. So they're getting 10 cents a pound or 10 cents, I forget what it is. It's just a really small amount in the grand scheme of what they do.
It's crazy. I think, Luke, you were telling me at one point too, the kind of challenges you run in agriculture, though, you wouldn't be thinking about in many other businesses. Like, hey, there's a greenhouse about a half mile away from the core building, and they need wireless.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Point-to-point networks are fun, and weather is fun, and it's all go to work. So, Jon, there is one client I was thinking of. Sizer machine actually runs on. You should talk about maybe runs on Windows 98.
Yep.
Nice.
That's a fun one.
Nice.
Yeah, and we just upgraded that some new hardware, and they were the owner was actually pretty excited because it started running about 30% faster. Now he can keep this machine just a little bit longer.
It's funny.
Virtualized it and off it went.
That is
those industries, that and manufacturing with some of the old CNC machines that you see running even as far back. I've seen a few that were still running on DOS command line in order to keep them going. It's crazy, but now that we've had a moment to kind of learn a little bit about who both you guys are and how you came to be, maybe tell us a little bit about the story of growing a company from 16 years old in high school and turning it into a true blue business organization, and the growth pattern to starting to employ people and taking on customers, and certainly more heavy duty responsibility, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about, maybe some of the successes or some of those challenges you guys felt over that time.
Yeah, I think, I was fortunate enough to start at a time when, I could always play the I'm young card.
Yeah.
So, people were even like, they were helping the college kid out. So in many ways, like they were kind of partners on that journey. I think about, there was a law firm in town where, the partner probably gave me more chances than I deserved for sure. But really just was, an instrumental part of really Kotman's success, and really kind of stuck with us even when there was times when I wasn't sure I was going to get the network working, at 7:00 and 8:00 was coming quickly, those types of things. So really, that was kind of, I think, in many ways a helpful way as far as growing the business, where, Kotman Technology, we're really fortunate to really just grow through referrals. So that's really been, it's I think in many ways we look at it as 20 years of really hard work and a really great team of people that's done work where clients continue to tell other clients about us. Over the past, few years, we've had consistent growth every year. And really, it's like we kind of learned early on as far as, bringing on team members and some of the challenges of that. How do we do this and also run a company as well as also, make a great place to work, and two, make sure that we've got clients that really our team is excited about working with. I kind of think back to even probably about 3 years ago, would probably have to say one of the first kind of, I don't know, I'd say difficult decisions was we actually fired our second largest client.
Ooh.
And, as we kind of talked through that, there was just some technology alignment issues where we kind of looked and said, this isn't going to be a good fit long term. We kind of looked at and we said they view technology in a different way. And really, it's like it wasn't having a great impact on our team.
Jon, unpack that a little bit for us, because every business goes through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where they have that, especially when it's a huge client.
Yeah. So I think one of the principles we've kind of started with a long time ago, and I give a lot of credit to our HTG group and peer group as far as talking through different things and talking through even this situation in particular. It's like we've kind of always operated with the premise that we can lose our top 2 clients without having any impact on people. We've kind of seen that if we were to operate any differently, at that point you really don't have a company. You work for that company, and in a bad situation, if that client knows that, even margins can get squeezed, different things happen where you can't afford to make the right decision. So for us, we kind of saw that and said, what, we need to make this change. So we actually, had to fire a client. It's kind of a weird thing, probably one of the tougher decisions, we've had to make as an organization. But, in hindsight, it actually worked out really well. And Luke, do you want to keep on even share what happened that day?
I think it was interesting. Yeah. So Jon basically comes out to the team, and our team was smaller at the time. I don't know how many folks, Jon, maybe 9 or so people. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And he comes out and says, hey, so we're going to fire this client for these reasons, and the team, at this point, the team looks around, they're thinking, they know this is a big client, obviously a large volume of service requests come from this client. And so the team looks around, and I guess I'm kind of a person who maybe the team comes to or whatever, and people are like worried, right, about their job. And this is like, wait, if we're firing them, what's the impact on us? Like, what does this do for, and people, there's a sense, and Jon doesn't even hesitate. And he's like, and actually today, I also want to let you guys know, we're opening up for hiring. We're going to be bringing on another team member. And so we're excited about the things we're doing here, the growth we're having, and the client base we have that's going to run with us on this journey. And it was just like, whack, right then the whole team went, whoa. Jon then shares, we've always operated in a way, and I give Jon a ton of credit, by the way. He's always operated the business debt-free, right? So there's never been a question of any way. Anything you see here at Kotman is bought and paid. Debt-free always is a principle Jon has run on since long before this thing even got to where it is. Mm-hmm. So he kind of shares, hey, we could fire our top 2 clients with no impact on people. It kind of gives a little bit of the why behind it. And the whole team, like, Brian, it was a galvanizing moment where everyone's like, whoa, we just fired them because in many ways, we didn't agree, and it wasn't, they maybe were listening to different things. It was so difficult. It always felt like a real struggle to move things forward, and we're saying, hey, the risk is growing because we're not doing these things. Jon lays it out and then says, and we're going to hire because of it. We're so grateful for our team here, who we have. And everybody, what a moment,
that's an enormous culture moment. Robb loves to talk about culture and how do you develop it, but I think you've already answered that question.
That just does it right there. It's easy to put words on a wall, right? That's easy to do. Living those type of core values and those things that make your employees respect you is a very difficult thing to do, especially when it's your number 2 client. right? It's easy to talk about stuff in a meeting, but
in one short meeting, you were able to tell your team, we value you more than any customer. We value your sanity more than any customer. We run ourselves in a financial way that we don't worry about any one customer, so you don't have to worry either. And we're here to make sure that everybody's going to be a big part of this going forward. I mean, come on, that is like, and all that done through really one single action or a couple actions kind of coming together at the same time. I mean, bringing somebody on in that moment too had to take those words from, well, they're giving us lip service until things get tight. How long is that going to be? Into, well, you wouldn't bring somebody on unless you really knew,
And I think that's something we've seen, especially Rob and I, we tend to work with MSPs that are, I would say, closer to the age where you're at, right? And we've seen a huge trend especially over the last 5 years, where clients are more and more getting rid of those large, or our clients, our MSPs are more and more getting rid of those large clients that they have, so they're not upside down, right? I mean, we've got somebody that we know quite well. He owned an MSP in New York City for a while and since sold it. And now he's kind of helping MSPs recruit technical talent. They used to, when they would fire a client, they would get a cake and they had a party, and it was a happy firing day. And look, they did it right, but it sounds like you're doing the exact same thing. So that's cool.
And I think,
Jon, you've got a story you want to share right now. Tim segued. He didn't even know. He just set that up for you.
Let's bring it on.
We had a small situation. We had a 3-person law firm that came on, and I think they operate as if they were an 800-person law firm. And after about a month, we said, hey, this isn't going to work. And it was, I went to the local liquor store, which I think they had warm champagne, or whatever the version of that is. It was not good. We brought that back to the office, and one of our techs, he goes, I went and called my mom to tell her how happy I was.
That's
all of a sudden Boone's Farm champagne tasted better than anything anybody's ever drank. But there's so much truth to it, right? I think you mentioned like HTG, and a lot of the peer groups talk about it. Sometimes when we hang on to those customers, all we're doing is destroying not only our culture, but destroying our own profitability, because that's when we're making hires just to try to fill the other gaps and take some of that stress off of other people. And I think it's a big part of the maturation process. Some customers just can't be taught, and if they can't be a good partner to you, one of my stories from the past that kind of ties to that is I used to do some work when I was a hired gun at an MSP after I exited my own. We worked with a very large enterprise firm that might be related to a mouse in the entertainment sector. And one of the great things about those guys is they constantly checked in to ask if we were being a big partner, or if they were being a good partner, because they knew they could be really demanding, and they knew that they could need things, but they were like, hey, the trade-off is, are we paying you on time? Are we making sure that we're getting back to you? When we do have those moments of, that are confronted, are you guys getting a forum to then voice your opinion on it too? And it blew my mind, because that's when you really realized you need to have that partner. And if it can happen in an enterprise of that scale, it shouldn't be too hard to ask of the customers that most of us work with, right? So I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I kind of wanted to just ask you, like, for people who are out there and trying to understand if maybe they're in the same position that you guys were, and do I get rid of this client? Do I not? Am I just, doctor doesn't always fire all of his patients that don't take his advice. Where is that line? Where was that line for you guys? Was it culture and just butting heads, or was it really just misaligned risk?
I think, probably really a bit of both. I think, as you're kind of evaluating that, put some lines in the sand. I think it's always like, when you're in that spot, it's like we gave 110% effort to say, because it's always better to try and change a relationship or make it kind of moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But put some lines in the sand that say, if we don't get to X point by this date, based on us putting 110%, then we're going to really kind of go down that path and make sure, that they can transition well. I think too, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't too late, meaning that, we kind of saw that risk growing with them and their technology, but we didn't want to ever leave them in a spot where that risk was too great for them to find a partner. that would take on that risk.
Okay.
And we transitioned that client. We actually we exported their IT glue documentation. I think it was 450 pages at the time to that next partner. And it was actually kind of cool. We had somebody who applied to work for us during that process. And from that other provider, he said, really, it was because of the documentation you provided.
Wow.
We saw what you guys had done. And it was really, it's like, we always tell clients, like, their documentation, it's their property, not ours. So we always want to make sure that, it's like that next person, it's like, got to start where we left off. We never want a client to suffer or have to start over from scratch because of all the work that has already been done.
Sure. So you did it right.
Yeah.
That's very good.
One other thing, the owner of that company, I do think it came at a bit of a surprise to them, almost like, whoa, we're divert, this is not continuing. And for these reasons, and Jon kind of lays this out, and him and the owner had a great conversation, but the owner basically says, what's your number? Like, if this is financial, if we're not aligned and you're not winning, like, know that we're okay. And Jon held to basically like, no, it's actually not financial. People will talk about efficiency rates, all that. It's a true, like, cultural, for these reasons,
wow,
this risk, here's why. And I thought that speaks volumes of Jon, his leadership, and just the true conviction, quite honestly, just behind it. Like, no, this is the reason. Like, we're not trying to, there's no manipulation here to try to
negotiation.
Different things. No, it's just like, here's what it is.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Very cool.
It's a very powerful point.
So, guys, we're getting near the end of our time together, but is there any other story you'd like to share with our listeners, or anything that you really want to bring forth to our listeners that you think they can benefit from, that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, I think one of the kind of the cool stories was, it kind of started out it's an interesting story in that we had a client. They became a client. They had in-house IT. That person was going to make a transition to a different department. During that process, he actually reached out to us and said, hey, I'd like to apply to work for you guys. So we reached out to the CEO of the company and wanted to make sure that'd be okay, first of all, even begin to interview. And we kind of, went down the path and said, hey, this probably isn't the right fit at this point. So at that point, that person actually left the organization. And Luke, do you want to tell about the cool phone call we got?
For sure. So we get a phone call to, on-site assessment. Folks are interested in IT services, right? So we have a conversation. Sir, sounds good. Jon and I'll come on site. Let's take a look at what you have. And, so we go on site, and sure enough, here's the owner of this company. And at his side is his brother, who helps him run. And then to his right was this former applicant, former internal IT of the client, who in many ways we displaced, right? When we came on, you can't sugarcoat it. When we came on, he had to move roles and eventually leave. Here he is. And right away recognized him. Oh my goodness, we actually embrace. And he says, I told them that you guys would be the partner. I've worked with you, that you guys could solve their problems. The fact here, the neat thing
That's
here is that
cool.
actually turns out to then be our largest client. So that client is one of size for us, certainly, right? And so it's just interesting. Like, what's the takeaway? I don't know. Do the right thing repeatedly.
Do the right thing.
Always. Like, treat this person with esteem. Treat them with integrity. Like, we want to do the right thing by the CEO initially. When the first, hey, he's applying. Is this okay? Yes, absolutely. He actually came to me first, move forward, and just do the right thing and esteem this person through the process, even if it's not going to work out. Remember to send an email or phone call that says, hey, thanks for applying. Here's why, and we're going to move. Like, it's just all those little things. Who knows how they play out, but do the right thing by people and continue to do so. And then all of a sudden, wow, how did that end up? Kind of cool.
Okay. So let me get this right. So you got into a prospect, you displaced the person, just, whatever, right? You displaced him. He tried to apply to you. It didn't work out for whatever reasons. He went to a different company, and then he pitched you guys to come into that company, all because of the way that you treated the entire experience with him and the previous employer.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I tip my hat off to you too. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I mean, like, it seems to be, and I know we're coming up to the end here, but that seems to be like a theme with you two, right? With the way that you handle yourselves, your employees, and your clients, even when you're breaking up with a client, right? And what you tell your employees, it's very admirable, right? Very good job.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's really the culture of the team, because even in that situation, through all those things, it's like myself and Luke probably spent 20% of the time with that individual, but the majority of that was actually our team during the onboarding process, working through doing those transitions and different things like that. So it's really, it's become like the culture of Kotman.
One thing I think's fun, Jon always says is, he's like, I want to be confusing. I want to be different. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. Like when you offboard, give better service than you ever have if you're transitioning. When you're going through, and it's just this interesting idea of the confusion. Wait, why are you being so good? It's like no reason, like just because it's right.
Yeah, because that's the way it should be.
Right?
Yeah.
So Jon leads that way, and I think it permeates through the whole organization, and that's how he's approached it. And it's like, as a friend, right? I had the unfair advantage. I saw him at 18. I thought it was just him. And like, Jon, I'm going to out you right now, but having parts in the trunk of his car, like we all make fun of, like I saw it, right? Like I know that guy, but that's who he was then. And, it's who he is now.
Very good.
Hey, those were the fun days too, though. That was when you're just figuring it out and all that. And, some of the mistakes we made there,
Not that we'd want to go back.
Nope. We can talk about that some other time.
It's fun as a chapter in the past.
There are some lonely moments in server rooms, man, in history, right? And just people shaking their heads.
I remember hiring friends because they had a truck.
Yeah. Your value is literally metal. So, Luke, congratulations on getting your job that way.
How big's the truck?
I own a truck. Yeah.
That's funny.
My value we're coming up purely in metal in the size of my bed. Yeah.
Well, fellas, we're coming up to the end of our time. Luke, Jon, I really appreciate your time here today. For anyone that's looking to get a hold of these fellas, we will be including their LinkedIn profiles with the episode. And it'll also be up on mspbusinessschool.com and anywhere that you get your podcast. Brian, Tim, any closing thoughts before we break away today?
No, but what kept coming to mind, a few of the stories we had the last couple of days when we were actually together, and I kept going, these guys are talking about how they really offboard professionally, and I'm thinking about some of your stories, Rob.
Well, okay.
Why do you got to bring that up, man? That was over a beer, man.
Yeah,
you're breaking the bar rule.
So Rachel, that's for the editing floor, but needed to be said for these guys.
That's funny. Hey, well, fellas, we really appreciate it here today. Have a great weekend. It was great chatting with you. And as always, take care.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Guys, really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.